Quick correction before we start, because it matters. The qualification we're covering in this series is Cambridge International AS and A-Level Information Technology, Syllabus 9626. Not ICT. Information and Communication Technology is the name of the course one level down at IGCSE. This syllabus actually assumes you already know that content. Get the name right and you'll recognize the real syllabus documents when you go looking for them yourself. 5 topics today, and every one of them is examined only in writing, on paper 1. No software, no practical task, just precision of understanding. Encryption, data processing methods, algorithms and flowcharts, the digital divide, expert systems. For each one, the concept taught properly, the mistake Cambridge's own examiners have actually documented, and a full exam-level question, solved and explained, step by step. Let's start with a topic almost every candidate thinks they already understand. Encryption scrambles data using a key so that anyone without that key can't understand its meaning. That's the precise definition, and the word precise matters here more than almost anywhere else on this syllabus. Here's the first documented finding. Encrypted data is not unreadable. It's perfectly readable. It's a real sequence of characters sitting right there on the screen. What's hidden is its meaning, not its existence. Say unreadable, and you've described the wrong property entirely. Here's the second. Asked about one specific mechanism, candidates explain a different one instead. Asked about symmetric encryption, they drift into comparing it with asymmetric encryption. Asked what SSL is, they describe it as if SSL were itself a method of encryption, when SSL is a system that uses encryption to protect data in transit, not an encryption method in its own right. Here is your exam-level question. A retailer's website uses SSL to protect customer payment details sent over the internet. State what happens to the data if it's intercepted during transmission and explain what SSL actually is. Pause it and decide whether the intercepted data is unreadable or just meaningless before you write anything down. Here is the solution. If intercepted, the data is still fully readable. Every character is right there. But its meaning is scrambled by the encryption key, so it's meaningless to whoever intercepted it. SSL itself is not an encryption method. It's a protocol, a system that uses encryption underneath it to protect data as it travels between a browser and a server. 2 precise distinctions: readable versus meaningless, and a system that uses encryption versus an encryption method itself. Batch processing groups data together and processes it later in bulk. Real-time processing responds immediately because the situation genuinely can't wait. Same syllabus point, 2 completely different reasons to exist. Here's the first documented finding. Asked to describe updating a master file from a transaction file, candidates rarely describe the actual steps, and they confuse the word file for record. The entire process depends on matching each transaction to the right master record by an identifier, like a product code. Miss that, and there's no process left to describe. Here's the second. Real-time processing gets explained in purely generic terms, the textbook definition, recited, without ever connecting it to why the specific system in the question actually needs it. A rocket guidance system isn't real-time because real-time systems respond immediately. It's real-time because a delayed response, even briefly, has consequences that a supermarket simply doesn't have. Here is your exam-level question. A supermarket updates its stock records overnight from the days till receipts. Batch processing, updating a master file from a transaction file, matched by product code. Describe the actual update process. Separately, a rocket guidance system adjusts thrust continuously mid-flight. Explain why real-time processing specifically suits this system. Pause it and name the actual matching identifier before you describe anything else. Here is the solution. The update process, each till receipt in the transaction file, is matched to its corresponding product record in the master file using the product code as the identifier. And the stock quantity on that master record is adjusted accordingly. Not the files are combined. A specific match by a specific identifier on every single record. And the rocket, real-time processing suits it because any delay in adjusting thrusts, even a fraction of a second, risks the rocket deviating off course in a way that can't be corrected afterward. The timing isn't a nice to have here. It's the entire point. 2 topics down. Notice the actual pattern in both of the mistakes so far. It was never that candidates didn't know the topic. It was that they answered the topic they expected instead of the one actually asked. That exact habit is about to matter again, 3 more times. The same logic written 2 ways. Pseudocode as structured text and flowcharts as a diagram. Cambridge tests precision in both notations, not just whether the underlying logic is correct. Here's the first documented finding, in flowcharts specifically. Decision boxes without a proper yes and no, or true and false pair of outputs, and conditions written as prose instead of a mathematical expression. Is x between 5 and 10 is not accepted. It has to be written mathematically. Here's the second. In pseudocode specifically, if statements left without a matching endif and conditions written without real mathematical reasoning behind them. The same precision failure as the flowchart pothole, 1 level down, in a different notation. Here is your exam level question. Write pseudocode and draw the matching flowchart for a program that inputs a percentage mark and outputs pass if it's 50 or above. Otherwise, fail. Pause it and check every IF has a matching endif before you move to the flowchart. Here is the solution. In pseudocode, input mark. If mark greater than or equal to 50, then output, pass else output, fail endif. Every IF properly close with its endif. In the flowchart, the decision box reads mark greater than or equal to 50, a mathematical expression, not a sentence, with one path labeled yes leading to pass, and the other labeled no leading to fail. Same logic, 2 notations, both written with exactly the precision examiners are checking for. The digital divide is the gap between those with genuine access to and benefit from technology and those without it. And this is the single most consistently documented topic in this whole report. Here's the first documented finding, corroborated across every version of this paper sat in the same session. Asked for causes tied to one specific dimension of the divide, a specific pair of groups, a specific factor like industrialization. Candidates give generic digital divide causes instead, never actually connected to the dimension the question named. Here's the second. Answers lean on unsupported generalizations instead of real, defensible reasons. Examiners specifically flagged candidates claiming older people are somehow hardwired to find technology threatening, which is, at best, an unsupported generalization, not an actual explanation. Here is your exam-level question. Explain 3 reasons for the digital divide between older and younger generations specifically, not the digital divide in general. Pause it and check that every reason you write is actually about age, not a generic cause. Here is the solution. 3 reasons, each tied specifically to age, not generic. First, prior exposure. Younger generations have grown up using this technology from childhood, while older generations often encountered it only as adults, later, and less continuously. Second, physical design. Smaller touchscreens and smaller text can be genuinely harder to use with age-related changes in eyesight or dexterity. Third, formal exposure. Technology is now built into younger people's education from an early age, in a way it wasn't for older generations' schooling. 3 real, defensible reasons, every one of them actually about age, not a stereotype standing in for an explanation. An expert system stores human expert knowledge as a set of rules and uses an inference engine to apply those rules to a specific case and reach a conclusion. Here's the first documented finding. Candidates confuse inference engine with interference engine. And it's not just a spelling slip. It reflects not actually understanding what the component does, applying the stored rules to the facts of a specific case to reach a conclusion. Here's the second. Given an actual rule base and asked to use its specific logic, candidates fall back on reciting generic expert system facts instead of actually tracing the given rules through to a conclusion. Examiners noted this exact version of the question was harder specifically because it demanded that trace, not memorize definitions. Here is your exam-level question. Using this rule base, if fever and cough, then flu. If fever and rash, then measles. If no fever, then neither. Trace how the inference engine reaches a diagnosis for a patient presenting with a fever and a cough, and explain what the inference engine's role actually is in that process. Pause it and check each rule against the patient's actual facts before you decide the diagnosis. Here is the solution. The patient's facts are fever, present, and cough, present. The inference engine checks each rule against those facts in turn. The first rule requires fever and cough, both true, so its conclusion, flu, is reached. The second rule requires fever and rash. Rash is absent, so that rule doesn't fire. The inference engine's actual role in this trace is exactly that, applying the stored rules to this specific patient's facts, not the patient in general, to reach this specific conclusion. That's the difference between naming the component and understanding what it does. 5 topics: encryption, data processing methods, algorithms, and flowcharts, the digital divide, and expert systems, the theory spine of AS information technology, confirmed against Cambridge's own syllabus and examiner reports, not assumed. The thread through all 5. Examiners keep finding candidates who know the topic in general but answer the general topic instead of the specific question in front of them, the specific mechanism, the specific group, the specific rule base. Answer what's actually asked, tied to the actual details given, and you are already ahead of most of the candidates in your hall. Search Cambridge IT on StudyRevise for the rest of this series, and I'll see you in the next one.